Standard deviation of grouped data. So how do we find the standard deviation of grouped data? Just like the mean deviation, we need to know the formula that we're going to use and the columns that we will add in our frequency distribution table. So this is the formula that we're going to use in finding the standard deviation of group data. It looks complicated, but actually it's more on the summation of some of the columns in our frequency distribution table. So SD here is the standard deviation, F is the frequency, and X is the class mark. So after knowing the formula that we're going to use, we will proceed now to the columns that we're going to add to the frequency distribution table. So what are the columns that we're going to add in our frequency distribution table? So we have the class mark, we have the product of the frequency and the class mark, we also have the square of the class mark, and the last column is the product of the frequency and the square of the class mark. For class mark, we're going to use the same idea that we used before. So for class mark, we have 43, 38, we also have 33, we have 28, we have 23, we have 18, and we have 13, we have 8, and for the lowest class we have 3. Fx here is simply the product of f and x. So to complete this column, we will simply multiply it. So 1 times 43, the answer is 43. 5 times 38, we have 190. 10 times 33, we have 330. We will have 336, 230, 90. The product of 3 and 13 is 39. We also have 24 and we have 3. That is 1 times 3. So we're done with the fx column. Now we're going to proceed to the square of the class mark. So when you say square, you will multiply it to itself. So 43 times 43, we have 1849. Next is 38. The square of 38 is 1444. The square of 33 is 1089 or 1089. 28 times 28 is 784. 23 times 23 is 529. So we will also have 324 and 169, and 8 times 8 is 64. And of course, for the lowest class, 3 times 3 is 9. So we have now completed the column x squared. What about for fx squared, or simply the product of f and x squared? So for the highest class, we will simply multiply 1 and 1849, and of course that will give us 1849. Next is to multiply 5 and 1444, and of course that is equivalent to 7220. And of course we will simply repeat the process up to the lowest class. So let us multiply it. 10,890. Next is 9,408. Next is 10 times 529. We have 5,290. And of course, we will have 1,620, 507, and 3 times 64 is 192. And for the lowest class, we have 9 as the product of 1 and 9. So that's it. We have completed the frequency distribution table. Again, the columns that we're going to add are x, fx, x squared, and fx squared. To complete the column x, simply follow the idea of class mark. For fx, simply multiply the frequency and the class mark. And for x squared, simply multiply x to itself. And of course, for the last column, fx squared, we will simply multiply the frequency and the x squared. So after completing the frequency distribution table, we need to find some of the summations of the columns. So first, we need to find the summation of the frequency. So in our data, we have here 50. What else? We also need to find the summation of the last column, fx squared, and of course that is equivalent to 36985. Simply add all the numbers that we have here. And of course, we also need to find the summation of fx. And that is equivalent to 1,285 if you will add all the numbers that we have under the column fx. So again, what are the columns that we need to find the summation? Summation of f, summation of fx, and the summation of fx squared. Don't forget this value because we will be needing this in our formula. After getting the summation, let us go back to our formula and identify the value that we will substitute to it. So substituting the value, summation f, so we have 50. Summation of fx squared, we have the value earlier, 36,985. Subtract it to the summation of the product of the frequency and the class mark. We have the square of 1,285 divided by summation f, again that is 50, and of course summation f minus 1 is equal to 49. After that, simplify it. So if you will simplify it, 50 times 36,985, we have this value, and squaring this one will give us this answer, or 1,651,225. And the product of this one is of course 2,450. After that, let us simplify the numerator of the fraction, and we will get 198,025 divided by 2450, or 2,450. And of course, after dividing this one by 240, it is very important for us to find the square root. Otherwise, it is not the standard deviation, right? So what will be the answer? Of course, SD is equal to 8.99, is almost equal to 8.99. So this is already the answer.